What if the story did not end with the flood? What if the gods never truly left? What if they only changed the way they ruled? The flood had ended, the waters receded. But power did not disappear. It changed its form. The voice of God echoed through the thrones of kings. But behind the crowns, within the temples, in the shadow of myths, who truly held the real power? Did the Anunnaki fade into eternity? Or did they continue to exist within bloodlines, within dynasties, and in the depths of forbidden knowledge? Some kings ruled for centuries. Others claimed to descend from a divine lineage. And one name rose above them all. Gilgamesh. Half god, half human, a ruler caught between two worlds. If the Anunnaki are accepted to have truly existed, Gilgamesh is not merely a legend, but a clue. Because traces do not remain only in texts. Some are carved into stone, some are buried beneath the earth, and some, even after thousands of years, still rise. Across the world, there are structures believed to be far older than humanity's first steps. Structures so vast, so precisely crafted, and so carefully aligned that they compel us to ask questions. These structures are not merely tombs or monuments. To some, they are messages. According to some, they are signs. And according to others, they are fragments of a system left behind. If the Anunnaki truly existed, then where should these traces be sought? The answer does not belong to a single continent. Egypt, Mesopotamia, the Americas, and the most distant corners of the world. Now, we will look at the greatest of these traces, carved from stone, yet defying time itself, to the pyramids. Extraordinary structures in Anunnaki legends. According to the theory, the Anunnaki were extraterrestrial beings, and they came to Earth around 450,000 years ago. They remained on the planet until the Great Flood, around 12,000 years ago. That means a presence of nearly 438,000 years. It is claimed that their advanced technology made it possible to build megalithic structures like the pyramids. It is believed that these structures, together with others across different regions of the world, were part of a global system. According to Sitchin, the pyramids were not built only as tombs or monuments. He suggested they were also used for scientific and even technological purposes. According to them, the pyramids may have functioned as navigation markers or as energy control centers for an unknown system. According to some views, the Anunnaki may have directly guided or closely overseen the construction of these structures because they required extraordinary precision and advanced knowledge. One of the elements that deepens the mystery between the Anunnaki and the pyramids is the Great Sphinx of Giza standing before them. Were the Anunnaki connected to different ancient civilizations? Mesopotamian accounts, like the Epic of Atrahasis, tell that the Anunnaki created humans to serve them. In Egyptian tradition, the divine potter god, Kachenam, shapes humans from clay, forming them from the very mud of life. The Egyptians believed that the pharaohs, thought to descend directly from the gods, served as mediators between humans and the divine. This concept of divine kingship is also seen in Mesopotamia, where rulers were believed to reign in the name of the Anunnaki. The belief in a divine bond between rulers and gods may have come from a shared mythic origin or from a direct Sumerian influence on Egypt. Another possible link between the Anunnaki and the gods of Egypt can be seen in the similarities between certain deities. In Sumerian mythology, Anu, the sky god and father of the gods, shows parallels to Egypt's Ra, the creator of all gods, and the sun itself. Enlil, the god of air, wind, and storms, can be compared to Shu, the air god who separates the sky from the earth. Set, often linked to storms and the forces of nature, is another possible counterpart. The Sumerian god Enki, associated with water, wisdom, creation, and magic, shows similarities to Thoth, Egypt's god of wisdom, writing, and magic. Ptah, the Egyptian creator god and patron of craftsmen, may also be seen as a counterpart to Enki because of his roles in creation and mastery. In both cultures, it is striking that the gods are often portrayed with hybrid or animal-like features. While the Egyptians depicted the gods with animal heads, as seen with Horus and Anubis, Anunnaki are depicted as imposing humanoid beings bearing symbols of divine power. Egyptian pharaohs, especially names like Ramses II, were portrayed as colossal, almost superhuman figures. According to proponents of Anunnaki theories, these pharaohs may have had genetic ties to the gods. Additionally, both the Sumerians and the Egyptians possessed extraordinary knowledge of astronomy. The Sumerians developed star maps and calendars based on the movements of celestial bodies and were able to predict astronomical events. They also developed the base 60 number system, which forms the foundation of how we measure time even today. The Egyptians, meanwhile, recognized the Orion constellation, created the 365-day calendar, and made major advances in arithmetic, geometry, and medicine. This fascination with the sky and the celestial bodies is connected to the belief that the gods came from the stars. The pursuit of immortality is a shared theme in both Sumerian and Egyptian cultures. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, as the king searches for immortality, Egyptian pharaohs built magnificent tombs to secure their place in the afterlife. For the Egyptians, the afterlife was as important as life on earth, and preparing for it stood at the very center of their religious beliefs. On the other hand, similar parallels can also be seen in the ancient cultures of the Americas. Anu can be compared to the Maya god Itzamnor or the Aztec creator deity Ometeotl because all of them are seen as celestial creator gods of the universe. Enlil can be associated with the Maya storm god Hurricane or the Aztec rain god Tlaloc, both linked to weather and mighty storms. Enki aligns with Quetzalcoatl, a god revered by the Olmecs, Maya, and Aztecs, linked to wind, wisdom, knowledge, creation and at times, the planet Venus. America's oldest civilizations include the Olmecs, and at La Venta, an early depiction shows Quetzalcoatl holding a vessel in his right hand. Interestingly, this vessel looks remarkably similar to the jars held in the left hands of Mesopotamian winged genies. Anunnaki, the Nephilim, and the Book of Enoch. Is there a connection, or is it all just a coincidence? The Book of Enoch is an ancient text not included in most biblical canons, except within the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The text contains stories of apocalyptic visions, of fallen angels, and of giants. The book tells the story of Enoch, one of the ancient patriarchs mentioned in the Bible. It says he was taken into the heavens, where he witnessed visions of the universe, the cosmic order, and the fate of humanity. Some theories interpret these experiences as an encounter with the Anunnaki, claiming that these beings took Enoch with them. According to this interpretation, the Anunnaki may have taken Enoch aboard a spacecraft, carrying him far beyond Earth to a distant world and showing him regions of the universe no human was ever meant to see. In the Book of Enoch, we also hear of the Watchers, celestial beings who observed humanity and, according to some interpretations, intervened in the world below. It is said that these beings took human women as wives, and from this union, the Nephilim were born, a lineage of giants, a forbidden bloodline that changed the world forever. And because of this act, the Watchers were no longer seen as messengers, but as fallen angels. Pursued by angels still loyal to God, a silent hunt began in the heavens. And according to the story, these fallen beings didn't just arrive, they taught humanity advanced knowledge, skills, and even technology-like secrets, as if civilization suddenly leapt forward in time. And the Nephilim, descended from their bloodline, are described as beings of enormous size, beyond human scale, with extraordinary strength. These physical traits bear a striking resemblance to the descriptions of the Anunnaki. But the Nephilim became so destructive, so dangerous, that their existence was seen as no longer tolerable, and it was decided that to restore order, they had to be destroyed. To cleanse the earth from the evil and corruption brought by the fallen angels and the Nephilim, God decided to send the Great Flood. The Nephilim, physical beings, perished as well, alongside the other corrupted humans who were not aboard Noah's Ark. This narrative shows striking parallels to the Atrahasis epic and other flood legends, where the Anunnaki are tied to the story of the flood. At this point, a question emerges: did the Hebrews encounter Mesopotamian narratives and carry these stories into their own culture, eventually shaping the Bible itself? Did a truly devastating flood strike this region and inspire the flood stories that survived through time? Could the Nephilim be the result of Anunnaki human unions, a hybrid lineage born between gods and mankind? The hidden layers of our genetic code. In 1973, Francis Crick, together with biochemist Leslie Orgel, proposed the theory of directed panspermia. This idea was born from their astonishment at the extraordinary complexity and precision of the genetic code. Considering the conditions of the early Earth, they concluded that the spontaneous emergence of life from inorganic molecules was a low probability. And the near universality of the genetic code across almost all life points to a shared origin. This genetic unity led them to the idea of directed panspermia, the possibility that an extraterrestrial civilization may have seeded Earth by sending microorganisms to initiate life. And the high level of sophistication within the genetic code may suggest not a product of random processes, but the signature of an intelligent design. Crick and Orgel did not present this theory as fact, but as a hypothesis, a way to address some of the unresolved problems in theories about the origin of life. Could the idea of directed panspermia be connected to the hypothesis that the Anunnaki were of extraterrestrial origin? Possibly as a speculative link, not as established fact. According to paleoanthropology, Homo sapiens emerged around 300,000 years ago during the Pleistocene epoch. For tens of thousands of years, humans lived in ways similar to the great apes. But around 50,000 to 100,000 years ago, humanity experienced a sudden leap in cognitive ability, technology, and culture. This period is known as the Cognitive Revolution, or the Great Leap. There is no definitive explanation for this sudden leap. Genetic mutations, social adaptation, or environmental pressures may have played a role. But those who support the hypothesis that the Anunnaki were of extraterrestrial origin argue that this sudden leap was guided by the Anunnaki. According to this theory, the Anunnaki created the first humans by combining their own DNA with the DNA of humanoid beings. It is claimed that this intervention gave humans a more advanced brain, the ability to use tools, and the capacity to build complex societies. The Anunnaki theory and the claim that it influenced human DNA are not supported by modern genetic science. However, some intriguing features of human biology have led certain researchers to question whether there is more to our evolutionary story. Human chromosome 2 has drawn significant attention in genetic research. At some point in our evolutionary history, two ancestral chromosomes fused together to form chromosome 2. This feature is not found in other primates. Chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans have 24 pairs of chromosomes, while humans have 23 pairs. Some theorists suggest that this chromosomal fusion was deliberately carried out by the Anunnaki to accelerate human evolution. In addition, around 98% of human DNA does not code for proteins, so its exact purpose is still not fully clear. Research suggests that this DNA may play regulatory or structural roles, yet its full function remains debated. This uncertainty has also given rise to various speculations. Some theorists suggest that hidden traces of genetic intervention by the Anunnaki may exist within these DNA regions. It is claimed that these beings left markers within our DNA that could one day, if deciphered, reveal information about our extraterrestrial origins. Are there any traces the Anunnaki left on Earth? In Utah's Canyonlands National Park, strange figures have been discovered, carved by the Fremont and the Anasazi peoples. They are believed to represent rituals or spiritual guides, but the true meaning remains unknown. Especially striking are the anthropomorphic figures in Sego Canyon with hollow eyes and elongated bodies. The most widely accepted view is that these figures depict shamans' visions or supernatural beings. In 1927, during discoveries in southern Peru, local archaeologists revealed these massive lines. According to mainstream archaeology, these lines were created by the Nazca, an ancient civilization of Peru. However, supporters of the ancient astronaut theory claim these lines were created to send signals to extraterrestrial visitors. To them, these giant figures and lines were used as landing strips or reference markers for spacecraft. One of the most mysterious figures is the shape known as the astronaut. The Palpa geoglyphs were first observed in 1926. According to research, some are attributed to the Nazca, but most are believed to have been created by the Paracas and Topiral cultures. Some figures resemble small humans, others look mythological, but some wear helmets with two protrusions. These figurines were discovered in the ancient Mesopotamian city of Ur, and they belong to the Ubaid culture. The Ubaid culture is widely considered a direct predecessor to the Sumerian civilization. These figures depict humanoid beings with elongated faces, large eyes, and sharply pointed heads. They are often shown in positions of authority, sometimes seated on a throne, and most likely they served a ritual or religious purpose. From an archaeological perspective, they are seen as symbolic beings linked to early cult practices. But some modern writers suggest that these figures could be connected to the Anunnaki. In northwestern Australia, the Wandjina figures hold a sacred place in Aboriginal culture. They are believed to be ancestral spirit beings who descended from the sky and created the world. Seen as beings who brought knowledge and supernatural power, the Wandjina were believed to control rain and storms. In the Sahara Desert, Tassili Nadja is home to rock paintings dating back nearly 10,000 years. Among these artworks, there are stylized human figures with large heads and elongated cranial shapes. Some theorists describe these figures as possible extraterrestrial beings or ancient gods, but most archaeologists agree that they represent hunting rituals. In the caves of Val Camonica, there are human figures that appear to wear round helmets with rays radiating from their heads. Some interpret them as beings in spacesuits, but the mainstream view is that they represent warriors or shamans. Legends about Vimanas. Vimanas are flying vehicles described in ancient Indian texts. They are said to be used by gods and celestial beings to travel through the skies and across the earth. According to these texts, the Vimanas could perform extraordinary maneuvers and reach incredibly high speeds. Modern commentators compare these vehicles to spacecraft or highly advanced aircraft. And in some accounts, the Vimanas are said to be armed with powerful weapons, capable of firing beams or releasing fire. So, do all these figures and prehistoric artifacts point to the presence of extraterrestrial beings or the Anunnaki in the ancient world? Or are they symbols, rituals, and myths carved into stone by the human mind? There is no scientific evidence to support this, and archaeology rejects such claims. But still, everyone is free to form their own interpretation. And yet, these figures remain deeply fascinating and worthy of study and further investigation. Could the ninth planet be Nibiru? Nibiru, the planet said to be home to the Anunnaki, was long considered nothing more than a legend. But in recent years, NASA and the scientific community have been discussing the possible existence of a world known as Planet 9. Could this planet be the true home of the Anunnaki? Science offers no evidence, but the question remains, why do so many myths point to the sky? The Planet 9 hypothesis was proposed to explain the unusual orbits of certain objects in the Kuiper belt. These orbits cannot be fully explained by current models of the solar system, and these irregularities may be caused by the gravitational pull of a massive planet far beyond the known frontier. According to calculations, Planet 9 may have a mass about 10 times that of Earth, and its orbital period could be far longer than Earth's. While Earth completes one orbit around the Sun in 365 days, Planet 9 is believed to take between 10,000 and 20,000 years, following an orbit that is extremely elliptical. If this planet truly exists, it must be located at an extreme distance from the Sun, far beyond Neptune. However, Planet 9 has not yet been directly observed. Its existence is inferred only through mathematical calculations and the orbital anomalies of other celestial bodies. Do the accounts in the Bible point to Anunnaki claims or stories of spacecraft? Interpreting biblical texts as records of extraterrestrial encounters is a modern theory, and this approach has sparked major debates. According to this interpretation, some biblical accounts describe encounters with extraterrestrial beings or spacecraft, beings that ancient societies perceived as gods. According to this view, one of the most intriguing examples appears in the book of Ezekiel in the writings of the Hebrew prophet Ezekiel. Ezekiel, while standing by the river Chebar, witnesses a series of celestial events. He speaks of 4 living creatures, and each one has 4 faces: the face of a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. Also, each one has 4 wings. And in Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 15, he says, "Now as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth, by the living creatures with his 4 faces." And it doesn't end there. He describes wheels within wheels, able to move in every direction, without turning, without changing course. And he compares the sound of their wings to the roar of a great army. Above the creatures, and above the wheels, there is a kind of platform, and on that platform, a radiant throne, and seated upon it, a brilliant figure, shining with light. According to proponents of ancient astronaut theories, these descriptions are a portrayal of a primitive spacecraft, or a UFO sighting. In traditional biblical interpretation, this vision is understood as a spiritual depiction of the glory of God. Enoch's divine ascension. Enoch's ascension, described in Genesis chapter 5 verse 24, is one of the most mysterious events in the Bible. Enoch walked with God, then he was no more, because God took him away. Even though it appears in the sacred text in just a single sentence, this event has been debated for centuries. Enoch was a descendant of Seth, the son of Adam, and he is among the rare figures whose death is never clearly stated. The text does not say that he died, it only says, God took him. In Jewish Christian tradition, this event is interpreted as a divine ascension, symbolizing Enoch's extraordinary purity and his devotion to God. In modern speculative interpretations, this phrase is seen as an intervention by an advanced technological civilization that interacted with humans in ancient times. In the second book of Kings, the ascension of the prophet Elijah is described in a dramatic way. As Elijah walks with his disciple Elisha, the heavens suddenly open, and a chariot of fire with horses of fire suddenly appears. And the book of Kings says, "And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that, behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven." In religious interpretations, the chariot of fire symbolizes the glory of God and divine power. However, modern researchers suggest that this account could describe UFOs or spacecraft. Ancient people may not have had the vocabulary to describe what they saw, so they may have portrayed these events in the language of their own time. But this story does not end here. There are chapters that have never been told, questions still waiting for answers, and truths hidden deep within the layers of time. Coming soon.